Okay, folks, get ready, because today we are diving deep into a recipe.
Ooh, a recipe.
Yes, a recipe, and it's for pan de pebete.
Pan de pebete.
Pan de pebete. It's a traditional Argentinian bread roll, and I am so excited to learn more about it.
I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with Argentinian cuisine.
Well, then you're in for a treat.
Yeah.
And where are we getting this recipe from, you ask?
Yeah, tell me.
Straight from the YouTube channel, Jhon's World. Ever heard of it?
Rings a bell. They do cooking videos, right?
They do, and their stuff is amazing. I mean, every time I watch one of their videos, I just want to run to the kitchen and start baking.
So what's so special about this pan de pebete recipe?
That's what we're here to find out. Sometimes the simplest things can be the most fascinating.
True. You never know what hidden gems you might find.
Exactly. And that's what we're all about in these deep dives, uncovering those hidden gems. And in this case, our gem is being expertly crafted by Jhon World's very own baker.
I'm intrigued. Let's get this oven preheated and see what's in store for us.
Let's do it. So first things first, the ingredients.
Lay it on me.
We've got flour, butter, milk, yeast, salt, sugar, and a touch of honey.
Okay, pretty standard bread ingredients.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's more to it than meets the eye.
You betcha. There always is. And that's where your expertise comes in. What's the deal with this ingredient list? Why flour first?
Ah, yes, the order of ingredients. It's not just random. A flour is listed first because it's the base of our bread, the foundation upon which everything else is built.
The foundation. Okay, so flour is like the building block of bread. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes flour so special? I mean, it's just flour, right?
Well, not quite. Think of flour as the skeletal structure of our bread. It provides the framework and the all-important gluten.
Gluten. Now, there's a word we hear a lot these days. What's the deal with gluten, and why is it so important for bread?
Gluten is a protein that develops when flour mixes with liquid. You've probably experienced gluten in action even if you didn't realize it. Have you ever stretched pizza dough and noticed how it springs back?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like it has a mind of its own.
That's gluten, my friend. Those stretchy strands are what give bread its chewiness. And for pan de pebete, we want a nice chew, but not too much.
Makes sense. So the type of flour you use can really affect the texture of the bread.
Absolutely. Jhon uses all-purpose flour for this recipe, which strikes a good balance. But imagine the possibilities. Different flours, like bread flour with its higher protein content, would create a chewier texture.
It's like choosing the right building materials for your bread house.
Ah, exactly. You want a sturdy structure, but not one that's too rigid.
So flour sets the stage. What comes next in our ingredient lineup?
Next up, we have milk sugar and a touch of honey.
That sounds like a sweet combination. What are they doing in our bread?
Well, this trio isn't about structure. It's about feeding our little helpers, the yeast.
Ah, the yeast. The little creatures that make our bread rise. I actually have a question about that. Why do those ingredients come before the yeast in the recipe?
Excellent question. It's all about creating a welcoming environment for the yeast. You see, yeast is a living organism, and it needs the right conditions to thrive.
So it's like setting the table before the guests arrive.
Precisely. The milk provides moisture, and the sugar and honey act as a delicious feast, kickstarting the fermentation process.
So we're essentially giving the yeast a spa treatment before they get to work.
You could say that adding these ingredients first ensures the yeast is happy and ready to create those beautiful air pockets that give the bread its fluffy texture.
Okay, that makes sense. I've definitely had bread that was a bit too yeasty tasting. Or sometimes it's just dense and sad. What can go wrong in this delicate dance of ingredients?
That's where salt comes in. The final ingredient in our lineup. Salt isn't just for flavor, it's a crucial regulator.
Salt, the regulator. Interesting. Tell me more.
Salt controls the yeast's activity, preventing it from going overboard and making sure those air pockets are evenly distributed. It's all about balance, really. Too little salt and the yeast might run wild, leading to an overly yeasty flavor or a bread that collapses because the air pockets become too large and unstable.
So that's why sometimes my bread comes out flat as a pancake.
Could be. On the other hand, too much salt, and you stifle the yeast's activity, resulting in a dense, compact loaf.
So it's like a Goldilocks situation. Not too much, not too little. Just the right amount of salt to keep those yeasty critters in check.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, but when it's right, the results are magical.
Now on to the actual bread making process. Jhon is very particular about kneading the dough with gentle circular motions. Why all the fuss about technique?
Kneading is where we really put that gluten to work. Remember we talked about gluten being like a muscle?
Yeah, like a network of tiny little muscles.
Exactly. Kneading stretches and aligns those gluten strands, creating a network that traps the carbon dioxide produced by the yeast. This is what gives the bread its structure and chewiness. The gentle circular motions Jhon emphasizes ensure we develop the gluten without overworking it.
So we're basically giving the gluten a nice workout, but not pushing it too hard.
Right, over-kneading can make the bread tough and dense. Nobody wants a bread brick.
Oh, I've definitely been there. My first few attempts at bread making were more brick than bread. So after the kneading workout, there's a resting period. Why is it so important to let the dough chill out for a bit?
Just like our muscles need rest after a workout, gluten needs time to relax and regroup. This resting period, called proofing, allows the gluten to relax, resulting in a softer, more extensible dough.
So proofing is like the cool-down stretch after a good workout.
Precisely. It's also crucial for flavor development as the yeast continues to ferment, producing those subtle, complex flavors we love in a good bread.
It's amazing how much is happening even when the dough is just sitting there. Okay, so after the rest, it's shaping time. Jhon carefully forms the dough into those signature Pebete rolls and then brushes them with melted butter. It's like a mini spa treatment for bread.
You got it. Shaping ensures even spacing for uniform baking. And that butter, it's not just for looks. It creates that beautiful golden crust that makes bread irresistible, adding a rich flavor and a delightful sheen.
It's all about the details, right? And speaking of details, I love how Jhon takes the time to shout out his online community. He mentions how much he appreciates their comments, subscriptions, and shares.
That really stood out to me too. It's a reminder that food connects us even in the digital world. Jhon's World isn't just about recipes. It's about building a community around a shared passion for baking. It's inspiring to see how people from all over the world come together to learn, share tips, and celebrate the joy of creating something delicious.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the final result. Imagine sinking your teeth into these soft, pillowy Pebete rolls. One suggests enjoying them as a snack or with a classic ham and cheese sandwich. Now that's what I call a perfect bite.
It's incredible how, with a handful of simple ingredients and a little bit of know-how, we can create something so satisfying. Pan de Pebete is more than just a recipe. It's a tradition, a testament to human ingenuity, and a reminder that even the simplest things can bring people together.
It's so true. What I find really inspiring is how bread making connects us to a long history of human creativity and resourcefulness. It's a reminder that we've been transforming basic ingredients into something delicious and nourishing for centuries. It makes you appreciate the magic of baking even more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. Whether you're a seasoned baker or just starting out, there's always something new to discover in the world of bread.
We definitely encourage you to give this Pan de Pebete recipe a try. And who knows, maybe you'll even share your experience with the Jhon's World community. Now, for our next deep dive, we're going to be exploring something completely different. Let's just say things are about to get a bit wild. Stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Me neither.